We are Deb Null
and Roxy Settley of Nerd Roller Skates,
Calgary, Alberta's full-service skate shop.
We are roller derby players and roller skate nerds.
And we are here for the people who roll.
Hello, WFTDA.com. We are just minutes here away from the St. Louis Gatekeepers and the New York Stock Exchange. I'm LeGrand Mort.
I'm Black Star Heroine.
And we have quite a sordid history between these two teams. Not so much this weekend. They haven't met this weekend.
Right.
This weekend's been a fairly easy run for them. St. Louis Gatekeepers coming up over
Southern Discomfort.
Southern Discomfort, yes, indeed. 288.87, while the New York Stock Exchange made it 275.75, their first game against Massachusetts.
Essentially the same margin of winning over two separate teams. So we can pretty much guess that coming into this, it's going to be neck and neck every other time.
Yes, indeed.
These two teams meet. It's a close game, it's a smart game, it's a scrappy game. Now it's just who stays on the track longer.
For those of you who have been watching this rivalry or watching these teams go back and forth over the years, you probably already know. For those of you who don't, here we've got some statistics for you. This year, RollerCon, Gatekeepers winning 161 over the Stock Exchange at 153.
And that game is really important because there were some key players missing for Stock Exchange. Normally, East Coasters not really making the trip to RollerCon. A lot of the people that did make the trip were playing all weekend, including from the Gatekeepers. So everybody a little affected by the amount of playtime and just the desert.
Yes, indeed.
The previous time, though, last year's MRDA Championship, Stock Exchange victorious 161 to Gatekeepers 149.
So both times the winner ending with 161. Little bit of superstition right there, a little bit crazy. Weird things happen in the universe. The previous MRDA, that was the Gatekeepers this time, 197 over 141.
Right, and there's been a lot of development in both teams' strategies. And, you know, Gatekeepers are in the running every year. They always put up a great fight. Stock Exchange looking to regain the championship here. They've won it twice before. They're looking to do it again.
Of course, whoever wins this game heads on to the championship round. So whoever wins is going to become number 1 or number 2. We saw Outcast already got bumped to a potential shot at number 3 or 4.
Wow, that game.
That game was incredible.
I have no words. I'm still stressed out, but this game is going to rein it back in, I feel.
Yeah, and then just going back a little bit further to Spring Roll, back before the 2012 championships, that was New York Stock Exchange coming up with the win at 131 to Gatekeepers 125.
Yeah, Spring Roll also another time when it was neck and neck. There were several lead changes in that game, and, you know, just eking it out by 6 points.
Yes.
It's tight, nice and tight.
So we're going to expect another really tight game here today. It's been back and forth each time. We'll see who gets to end up on the winner's side this game coming up. Before I go, I want to give a little shout out to a little guy that I couldn't make his birthday party. Colin, happy birthday. and we're going to get ready for some really great hot roller derby action.
I'm so excited.
Fantastic.
All right, here we are. I'm Rockus Ron. This is Julia Sleazer. We're going to bring you all the action of this incredible bout, and by all accounts, the buzz is this may be the game of the weekend.
Definitely. I'm incredibly excited to see these two face off. St. Louis Gatekeepers against New York Stock Exchange. You may remember over the last several years they've had a rivalry, of course.
Yeah.
Being two of
the top teams.
Yeah,
always.
two of the top teams always. Yes.
Yeah. They've gone back and forth. The scores have been relatively close, as our comrades over there mentioned over the years, and it is a rivalry like none other, because we're knocking on the door every year. Last year we had the Gatekeepers who really wanted back in the championship game, and they were knocked out by New York.
Yes.
So there's kind of a vengeance there. They're in the same position this year, so they're going for it, and so is New York, both with their eye on the #1 prize.
Definitely. It's going to be a well-played but hard match. Both teams going to be having to fight quite a bit against each other. Really excited to see this action. So.
Yeah, let's let them know who's on the roster today for the New York Stock Exchange. We'll have Sammy Dangerfield, Malcolm Sex, Carly Fu, Chris Zabo, Abe Drinkin, Ladies Night, I Am Havoc, Jeffrey, Jonathan R., Tank Lloyd Wright, Buster Cheaton, Harm's Way, Carnage Asada, and Kimbo Slice. A lot of familiar names on that list.
Definitely.
If you are a fan of men's roller derby.
And up for St. Louis Gatekeepers, we've got Spin Diesel, The Saint, Debaucherous Prime, Banana on skates, Nat King Kill, Double XL, Shane Bauer, formerly known as Shango Fett, Inquadable Hulk, Bled Zeppelin, Screech Around, Stark, Percy Control, Wrecking Bill, Magnum PIMP.
Well, that is a stocked roster as well, and everyone over on the Gatekeeper side is talking about how they have the deepest roster they've ever had. Clearly, if you watch them on the track, one of the biggest rosters. I mean, literally, those guys have got some great big blockers, and this should be a powerhouse matchup with lots of heavy hitting. I imagine it's going to come down to very few factors in the end.
Definitely. I don't know if you remember this from last year. No, some of you will. Banana was formerly with New York Stock Exchange and actually played with New York in last year's championships. This year he'll be playing with St. Louis Gatekeepers, having relocated to St. Louis pretty recently.
Interesting. I wonder if any of that strategy that he's brought in. Of course, New York talking about how they developed a new defensive strategy this year, and defensive also. Everybody's always we're constantly evolving and moving the game forward.
Definitely.
That's why it's wonderful to watch this. Tell all your friends to tune in on WFTDA.tv. This is a great place for your teammates and league mates to watch the best action in the world, learn from them, and develop. We're about ready to start on the Jammer line with, as you would expect, we've got Magnum PIMP for the Gatekeepers, Jonathan R. for the New York Stock Exchange. Like the referees are getting ready.
See that St. Louis has already got some of its bigger players out there on the line. Wrecking Bill standing next to Spin Diesel and Bled Zeppelin.
These guys are hard to get around.
Definitely. That's one advantage that St. Louis has. They have some larger players that make great walls and make it hard to penetrate.
Well, right here we've got both jammers battling the respective packs, but it looks like on the front end, Jonathan R. going to get the best of that with the characteristic thumbs up, and he is out lead jammer in scoring position already. Defense still working and recycling. Magnum, he'll go out. We're going to lose number 2 of New York for a forearm penalty. That was Chris Zabo. Magnum is out of the pack.
Does not have lead, so.
Yep, Jonathan R. calling it off after picking up 4, so a quick strike for the New York Stock Exchange.
Calling off with Magnum, still halfway around the track. Might have been a little bit preemptive, but sometimes that works out. So right now we've got Gatekeeper 0, New York 4. Next up on the line, we've got
Carnage Asada for New York.
It's Debaucherous Prime, who's got Porter on the back of his jersey. for St. Louis Gatekeepers.
Good matchup, and a couple in the box for New York, one for the Gatekeepers. So reduced pack on both sides. Carnage Asada trying to slice his way through this tough defense. Blam! Slammed down by the wall of Beefcake.
Got Percy Control up there, controlling that jammer, keeping him back, and then he's going to go ahead and recycle him to the back. We've got Debaucherous Prime up there. He's got lead jammer status for the St. Louis Gatekeepers.
Debaucherous Prime, one of those jammers who's so elusive, gets really low that time. Great seal blocking by his defense, or his offense rather, opening up a huge hole on the outside, sails through for 5 points.
New York meets him in the back of the pack with a little wall. Oh, they're going to knock him almost out.
And New York doing a great, St. Louis doing a great job of holding back Carnage Asada, but now headed to the penalty boxes. Debaucherous Prime.
Debaucherous Prime is going to sit for a track cut. He was being hit out and must have stepped just a little bit out and a little bit in and got that track cut.
And a back block called on Sammy Dangerfield. These teams are going to play their heart out. I kind of expect a lot of penalties out here just because things are going to go a little wild.
New York's jammer hung up on double XL.
Yeah, Carnage Asada, often a fantastic jammer. So far been stifled by the defense. He's going to cut track here, force cut track by Percy Control. The Team USA blockers of the Gatekeepers. Both teams with their share of superstars. So Debaucherous Prime, or Porter as his jersey says, gets slammed to the ground, but that is a back block.
It looks like right there Saint got a high block on him, but I can't tell the player. Looks like number 77 from New York Braves. Oh, nope, I'm lying. One of the New York players hit Saint in the face and did get called on a high block, so I think we're going to start off with the jammer for New York in the box, as well as one blocker. So it's going to be a power
Two
jam.
blockers.
Oh.
One of them was hiding back there.
Oh, they're full. All right, so that's going to be a power jam very much in favor for the St. Louis Gatekeepers. He's only got to get past two. That is Shane Bauer out there with lead jammer status for the Gatekeepers.
And Shane Bauer, a jammer who can score a lot of points in a hurry. Great footwork, getting better all the time. Shane Bauer on the attack.
He is one of the most agile skaters I've seen.
Yeah, it was kind of sad he changed his name. Shango Fat was one of the coolest names in roller derby, and
people really could not. There's not enough Star Wars fans in the world, apparently.
All right, so Shango Fett attacking the Death Star defense of New York, continuing to receive. Oh no, now we've got on New York a back block being called on Carnage Asada. So Shane Bauer will continue to score points. Slicing through, knocked out of bounds, but able to get back in on a no pass. No penalty, there he goes. Following his lead blocks like a running back.
It's like New York's star has fallen on the floor, which is why we see somebody sitting in the jammer spot without the star.
Meanwhile, Shane Bauer, another 5. St. Louis Gatekeepers. Some big smiles on their faces over on the bench right now. New York's got to feel a little bit shocked.
New York's jammer Abe Drinkin still has not, or has he recovered? Yeah, now at this point has recovered the star finally. Sat out there in the middle for quite some time. Abe Drinkin is held up by the Gatekeepers' defenses, which are stronger every year. Now he's encountered Wrecking Bill. Again, one of St. Louis's bigger players, harder to get through. Spin Diesel and Wrecking Bill high-fiving after effectively holding the jammer back. We've got a timeout for New York. We're going to want to talk about this for a minute. Right now we've got Gatekeepers at 33, New York State at 4. That was a 24-point jam for the St. Louis Gatekeepers.
Yeah, a couple things going wrong there, like the penalties, cut tracks. Jammer penalties already for New York.
New York had a full box and then like rotating blockers there for a second in the box, so they had quite a few penalties pulled on that last jam.
Yeah, Carnage Asada picking up 2. A cut track and a block to the back inside of 1 jam. That'll hurt you.
Definitely.
Abe Drinkin also with 2 penalties so far. Both of them direction of gameplay. Pretty early in the game to be picking up penalties.
I think both these teams are really excited to play each other, and sometimes you got to tone it down, make sure you got your head on your shoulder so you're not pulling excess penalties. Next up on the line, we've got 66 Screech Around for St. Louis facing off against New York's Jonathan R.
Yeah, and this New York team, a veteran team, they're going to settle down and get back into this one.
Definitely. It's likely after this timeout we're going to see a little bit of change in New York's strategy.
And Jonathan R. battling that big defense of St. Louis, knocked out of bounds once. Walls aren't moving very much, but he finally slicing out the front. One more to beat. He's got it. Jonathan R.
On the other hand, Screech Around is being recycled to the back of the pack by New York's blockers. He's having quite a bit of trouble getting past for his initial.
And Jonathan R. back in the pack and on the attack.
Screech Around out of the pack for his initial pass. Jonathan R. calls it off. That is 5 points picked up by New York. No points picked up by St. Louis on this last jam.
Jonathan R. giving a big smile and thumbs up to his teammates like, look, we got this. Settle down, stay focused. The Gatekeepers were telling me that they're bringing out some new blocking schemes. They're doing some different things here, mixing it up that people haven't seen before. And it's a good way to, you come up with different plays in every sport. And I think if you were a team and you came into a game like this and you had brought everything you'd ever done before, it wouldn't be a wise thing to do. But back to the action right now.
Got 275 out there for New York Shock Exchange, his first time on the line as a jammer this bout.
Yeah.
He is up against Magnum PIMP, who has lead jammer status for the St. Louis Gatekeepers.
Many of those in Magnum's long storied career. I Am Havoc recycled by the defense, and there goes Magnum. A big swipe at him by Tank Lloyd Wright. That's a tank you don't want to get hit with, but astutely he dodges the hit, crashing to the floor. I Am Havoc facing off with Banana. Finally fights through on his initial pass. Got to stop this bleeding. And Magnum will shut down that jam. St. Louis Gatekeepers really on the board here with 42 early, 21-50 remaining in the first half, and New York at 9.
Creating pretty wide berth between the two scores very early on. Can be favorable, but we've got so much time left. These two teams are matched so well, it could be either way.
And of course, the winner headed in to take on your mom, men's roller derby, the 2-time champions. And everyone excited to do that. So we've got Sammy Dangerfield jamming in the back of the pack, held up by the Gatekeepers wall.
Got Stark and Percy Control out there. Really capable blockers.
And there we go, another, nope, not lead jam call.
It's a no pass, no penalty.
Debaucherous Prime, though, in scoring position. New York still trying. We'll have a penalty there on New York, losing a blocker to the box. Number 42, Jeff Ree. So now Sammy Dangerfield out in scoring position, lead jammer, but already in the pack scoring. Debaucherous Prime. Probably already picked up the points, so Sammy Dangerfield going to continue on this one on the attack, try and pick up the points himself. Will probably shut it down on the front end.
You can really see St. Louis employing excellent tactics and just immediately able to snap up there with a wall, 2-man, 4-man, and that's how they're going to keep New York's jammer in check as long as they can keep that up. It's 3 points picked up by New York and no points picked up on that last pass by the St. Louis Gatekeepers. We're at 46-12 right now. So I don't know if you guys have checked out Green Monster Skates, but it's GRNMNSTR, Green Monster with no vowels. If your skate setup is lacking ceramics, they make the difference. Up your speed today with some Moto Ceramic Pearls at greenmonster.com.
Right, and we are taking off from the Nerd Skates jam line with Shane Bauer on the attack for the Gatekeepers. Jonathan R. once again for New York, and you get the feeling they're going to jam New York we're going to jam Jonathan as much as possible.
Definitely.
In this game. Really stand out at the level of jammer, even on a team like New York. So Bauer out of the pack as well, but Jonathan R. classic spin move around the front.
I love that
Scores
thumbs
5.
up. It makes me happy every time I see it. I don't know why.
Yeah, big personality in roller derby, and certainly one of the originators of a lot of the moves, and respected around the world for his skill and his big smile.
Yeah. I just like to see nice attitude. I like to see happy derby players, and Jonathan R. is always happy.
You know, we've seen a lot of that this weekend.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good spirits between the teams. Of course, they come out here to battle, but the guys are always patting each other on the back and helping them up off the floor. Back to the action. We got Carnage Asada stifled in his first jam out and had a couple penalties now, picking up lead jammer. So a redemption there for the Rockstar jammer, Carnage Asada.
For St. Louis Gatekeepers, we've got Screech Round out there, and he is caught up and almost through his initial, but keeps getting hung up on New York's blockers, just as New York gets through with 5 more points.
Now third lead jam call in a row for New York, so starting to pull it together there. Comes in hard into the pack. And 2 points picked up by Carnage Asada. None for the Gatekeepers. Crawling back into this one.
Currently, the score is 46-23 in favor of St. Louis Gatekeepers, so it's twice the score on the board for St. Louis. Next up, once again, we've got Magnum PIMP against I Am Havoc.
So New York with a 14-4 advantage over the last 3 jams. Of course, picking up lead jam call, and back to the action here. We've got I Am Havoc, kind of a small guy in a big gate wall. Spinning gate wall, nice recycling. They keep crashing him to the ground. No, they're going to force the cut track. I believe that was Bled Zeppelin with the forced cut track.
Yeah, both jammers are heading to the box right now, kind of giggling at each other while they do. They sat at a stifle.
They
So
both
there
sat
they go.
down at the same time, get right back up. That was awesome.
Well, if they sat at the exact same time, they would actually have to sit for 10 seconds. So
Yeah.
they sat at a stifle, so it's boop, boop, right back out.
Yeah.
Magnum PIMP being recycled back. I think we're going to see a full 2-minute jam because of the jammer penalties just there.
Wow, and staying inbounds despite those big hits from Bled Zeppelin. I Am Havoc on his initial pass, now in scoring position. Debaucherous Prime took the star. There'll be a stars on bars now for the Gatekeepers.
That's Nat King Kill out there receiving the star.
No lead jammer in this one. 42 seconds left on the jam clock. Enough time for sure.
4 points picked up by the Gatekeepers, who have prepared a wall and are keeping Carnage Asada back there.
Yeah, Carnage Asada, sometimes, there might be a weight and size disadvantage out
Yeah,
there for
well,
a skater.
You
And
got Bled Zeppelin, Wrecking Bill, and Banana keeping you back. You'd have to be a pretty big guy to get through
Yeah.
that wall.
well, and I see a lot of small skaters, or not large skaters like Bonnie Thunders that do take on big walls.
Definitely,
so sometimes
definitely.
you can be small and very, very powerful.
true.
But boy, these Gatekeepers walls are phenomenal. And we have I Am Havoc around, but won't make it back into the back of the pack. He was worn out from that abuse of the Gatekeepers wall. So St. Louis Gatekeepers.
58.
Yeah.
New York with a commendable 27.
Well, we're having some fun here. Julia Sleazer, both of us are pumped up and excited to call this one.
Definitely.
Certainly one of the marquee bouts of the weekend, and for all the marbles, the trip to into the room with the bag of marbles.
Right. This is the semifinal. You can see the marbles later.
Yeah. So Sammy Dangerfield out there pushing the back wall, but coming through is Debaucherous Prime will be your lead jammer for the St. Louis Gatekeepers. Sammy Dangerfield finally got some offensive blocking help from Buster Cheaton, and Wyatt helped free him up. But Debaucherous Prime looking back to the bench for a signal.
It's 4 points picked up by the Gatekeepers. Could not get that 5th point.
And let's talk about fouls here a little bit. It looks like New York's starting to stack up. They got 3 players with 3 on the board. A little bit early for that action. We've got Chris Zabo, Abe Drinkin, and Buster Cheaton with 3. And then how about over on the Gatekeeper side?
St. Louis has been pretty low on their penalties. We've got Nat King Hill's got 3.
And right now we've got Jonathan R. jamming for New York, trying to get the inside, trying to push past Bled Zeppelin, or is that double XL?
It's double XL.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, that is Bled. Sorry.
Bled with wonderful push-out action there, which gives time for Shane Bauer to come through.
Just as he's out, the jam is called. No points picked up for either team.
Yeah, St. Louis playing a little bit cleaner game so far. Nat King Kill with 3, and Spin Diesel with 2, Bled Zeppelin with 2. This is the kind of game where something like number of penalties or foul outs could have a dramatic impact
Definitely
on the game. And of course, you don't want to have your players sitting in the box becoming notorious. So as we continue to fight here, we've got St. Louis.
Let's screech around out there for St. Louis with lead jammer status.
And Carnage Asada been having a difficult time with this pack. Takes a trip to the ground from double XL, but they'll give him direction of gameplay on that one.
Just got out of the box and he went right back.
Carnage Asada still stifled in the pack. Gatekeepers recycling to the front of the pack very, very well. Take notes for your home league. That's how you do it. Doesn't matter if they get by you. You just run to the front of the pack and block them again. They can get by you 10 times as long as they don't get out.
Right. Even though we got this wide berth in the score, St. Louis 62, New York 27. New York has had leads
Carnage Asada on the outside had such a hard time getting through that pack, and then got stood up on his toe stop, stays in bounds miraculously. Screech around will call it off from the ground. Screech on ground.
So as I was saying, St. Louis 67, New York 27. Even though there's this huge discrepancy in the score, well, not huge, but fairly large, New York has had leads 6 times in this bout, St. Louis 5.
Yeah, New York certainly has to come up with a way to, they got to figure out these gatekeeper walls.
Right.
Because right now you're seeing skaters like Carnage Asada and on the track right now, I Am Havoc, really having a tough time. I Am Havoc with said wall recycled to the back. Meanwhile,
it's a forearm on Bled Zeppelin, who was one of the wall keeping back Carnages, or I Am Havoc, sorry.
So, I believe that was on New York, and now we have lead jammer for Mags, as he's affectionately known to the folks back home. So Magnum on the attack, coming up against a tough New York 3 wall, but slammed to the ground by double XL. Magnum slicing through on the inside. Picks up 5 points for the Gatekeepers. You know St. Louis is going crazy right now.
Yeah, I'm sure there's all the yelling ever. And this Wrecking Bill also yelling as he goes to the box. He's always thrilled to go to the box, have a little 30-second break.
And wow, the box just stacked up for New York. They had 4 people over there and 1 blocker on the track, now back to 2. So that is tough going. They will start off with a number of skaters in the box. and 82 for the Gatekeepers, 27 for the New York Chalk Exchange. The battle rages on. Sleazer.
Hello. We've got, there's going to be Prime up there on the track. We've got an official something. It looks like it's going to be an official timeout. So I want to tell you about Fast Girl Skates, one of our awesome sponsors. Don't forget they're having a customer appreciation sale going on all month of October. Save up to $200 off your order and get updated to express shipping for free on all international orders. Check the event page for details and codes and spread the word. Support a Derby-owned small business. We're in this together. That is fastgirlskates.com.
I like that. We're in this together, and that goes out to all of our sponsors. We got to take care of the people that take care of us.
Definitely.
When I come to an event like this, I'm always over at the merch tables picking up stuff.
I know.
Thank you for being here and supporting roller derby. Back to the action right now. Debaucherous Prime slices through the 2-wall, which is all they had on the floor for New York. I Am Havoc back on the track from the penalty box, but Debaucherous Prime, wow, tearing up the wall with leaving skaters on the floor in his wake. Grabs another 5. So the Gatekeepers trying to make a statement here early in this one. Just over 9 minutes remaining in the first half, and they are up by a pretty good sum, 87-28.
Still the attitudes. I love the feeling of this event. Everybody's been really lighthearted.
That's
you can
right.
still see the Gatekeepers and New York players interacting very positively, and that's something I like to see.
A lot of camaraderie.
Also, New York has not scored any points in the last 5 jams. That's a pretty rough go. So Gatekeepers going to sit at 87, New York at 28.
You know New York, though, can put together a plan like that. That was a set wall. They made a screen, sealed off the defense. Jonathan R. threw on the inside untouched and was lead jammer now. Back into the action, quickly recycled. Gotta love the way he steps out and back in before people can run back on him. Another note for jammers out there. You don't have to run all the way to the back of the pack. Just behind that person that shoved you out and do it quick. So spinning on the inside, staying in bounds, absorbing all those hits. Jonathan R. getting 5. New York fans got to be happy about this, to see a surge coming back, little momentum swing. Of course, you're pretty much going to have success just about any time you put Jonathan R. on the track.
Definitely. Bain's trying so hard to keep him back. He's the last one. He had to pass. Jonathan's out there picking up another 5 points for New York.
And the box continuing to load up for New York over and over again. So, I mean, with only one blocker on the track,
Yeah.
Jonathan R. gets in there and snags another 2. Great roller derby from that guy. So that brings us to a 48-point game, completely doable with lots of time left. That could erase that in a couple of jams.
That last jam for Jonathan R. was 12 points, something really very much needed for New York. We are in an official timeout right now.
Roller Derby Elite. Roller Derby Elite signifies our highest level of skates and components, engineered and designed for advanced skaters demanding the maximum level of performance. Roller Derby Elite, another one of our great sponsors. We'd also like to thank Adam Wheels and all of our sponsors for all of their support. Little discussion out there on the track, a meeting of the refs. We'll get this figured out in just a moment.
I was just been told that Jam Timer out there, Wizard of Laws, was in the movie Sharknado 2. That's amazing. It took me a second to read that because I was like, Sharknado what? And you wrote, the movie. That's amazing. Speaking of being in it all together, I have to point out we have excellent officials this weekend.
Yes, we do.
Really, really top-notch referees and NSOs. As mentioned in the last bout, when you have events like this that utilize Ringster, you have to have almost twice the number of NSOs on each crew. So there's a lot of NSOs out here, several referee crews, and they're doing a great job. And if you want to check out some of their hard work, every half, Ringster.net updates this tournament, so you can get real nerdy with your stats.
Love that, Ringster.net. So we'll have Screech around for the Gatekeepers, Sammy Dangerfield, for New York. Again, not seeming to move. That Gatekeepers wall, but ooh, a little deception. It pushes, pulls back, jumps through the hole. Great move there, but right on his tail is screeching around turn 4.
Screech Around has lead right now, am I right?
I guess so. It looked like Sammy Dangersville came through first, but they have a better angle on that on the floor than I do. So
I'm just looking at the wristbands. Look like the green ones. So Screech Around,
4 points.
4 points for each team picked up there.
So a wash on that one. More time ticking off the clock. Another discussion on the track here.
Are they taking a timeout or no? Nope, we got the 5-second call.
There we go. We get the coach off the track. Here we go. Carnage Asada.
Immediately meeting Led Zeppelin.
St. Louis putting a big blocker in the middle, but then, wow, powering through the front. The unstoppable Magnum PIMP. Gotta love, he comes out of the pack with a big smile all the time.
Yeah.
He's like, yay, this is fun.
I'm free.
Loves this game.
Yeah.
So we've got Carnage Asada out as well. Magnum probably going to run some time down on the clock right here. We'll go ahead and call it.
New York had 2 pivots out. The NSOs were trying to yell it in. There was 2 pivots out there for New York. Of course, just one of them has to remove the cover. And
yeah, Malcolm Sachs. Well, I guess one of them has to go to the penalty box here. Is that the
no, they just removed the cover like legit.
Okay.
You just got to take that off and throw it at your bench. But it wasn't appropriately caught until after the jam was finished.
Well, good.
They're going to be starting at the Nerd Skates pivot line this time. It looks like they thought they were going to. St. Louis is going to go ahead and move it back.
Debaucherous Prime for the Gatekeepers. Again, Jonathan R. jamming at every available opportunity here for New York as usual. Bam, slam down. A huge hit from Double XL. Direction of gameplay. He'll take a trip to the box on that one. Jonathan R. Amazing the way this guy gets past big blocks, but not that time. Recycled to the back. And we'll have Debaucherous Prime on a cut track. So a power jam for the New York Stock Exchange. Know our Gotham listening parties enjoying that turn of events. But look at this power jam killing 2 wall. The braced wall there. Led Zeppelin on his own with one of the greatest jammers in the history of the game. Manages to hold him back. The seconds count.
Certainly. And an excellent bridge there from Percy and Saint as well, keeping that out there as long as possible. Jonathan R. back in the pack and ready to score. He meets up with Percy Control immediately and slams into him and see if he can get past. They're going to
And New York had
another brace
on the attack on offense there. Saw Abe Drinkin come up and just work on that defense. Now Jonathan R. recycled to the outside, but
it looked like Prime thought he was being sent out and was being waved back in. No, you're not being penalized. That is the end of the jam. 4 more points picked up by New York on that last pass. Looks like they are creeping up. St. Louis is at 95, New York at 48. We got just about 4 minutes left in this half.
what phenomenal action we've seen all weekend from these teams. We'll recap a little bit of that as we have time during timeouts in a little while, but right now we've got I Am Havoc for New York Stock Exchange against the back wall for the Gatekeepers. Now getting some screening, blocking help. You gotta like the way New York does the offense and defense at the same time fluidly, and that'll help I Am Havoc get through. And I'm telling you, that's got to be what their coach is saying. We've got to get our guys out against these big walls. I Am Havoc spinning around, staying in bounds, past Spin Diesel's spinning block.
Yeah. That is I Am Havoc's first time as lead in this bout, and he picked up 5 points on that last pass. I mean, he's going to meet up with Wreckingville.
It's been tough going, but they're able to break down the 2 wall, 2 blockers for the Gatekeepers in the penalty box. It's like a street fight out there. Everybody's hitting everybody, colliding, crashing. No opportunity to hit somebody goes unmissed like that from Wreckingville.
Oh no. I think Wrecking Bill's block may have. Oh, it got issued as a back block. I have to point out, Wrecking Bill is actually one of my derby husbands, and I love him.
And you would admit that.
I admitted it. Yeah, this is
But
forever.
he talks in all caps.
He does. I talk to him in all caps, or he can't hear me. So
Right.
he does not text in all caps, which was disappointing for me.
All right. So back to the floor with a diminished pack on both sides. Like 2-on-3 in favor of New York from the blocker position. We'll have screech around for the Gatekeepers, but coming out the front end, Carnage Asada starting to see some more success as time winds on in this one. Couple minutes left in the first half. New York's trying to draw the score closer and doing a good job of it there, but no, sent to the box on a cut track. Carnage Asada. That will be his third penalty of the game, his second cut track.
That was the third time in a row New York has gotten lead, and since the lead jammer went to the box, of course, we're going to have the full 2-minute jam, of which we have about 1:20 left.
Direction of gameplay being called on somebody. One of the New York blockers. That will be
Ladies' night.
Ladies' night. Ladies' night in the past had been mostly a jammer.
Yes.
But of course in New York, most of the skaters are fairly interchangeable. Screech around, and into this 2-wall up front for New York.
Screech-around's going to have to really utilize his agility. He's a very, very, very agile and tall player. He's going to have to
Speaking
swoop
of
around
agility,
them.
Carly Fu right there, keeping right on him, maintaining, continuing to attack. That's one of the great young skaters. He will be recycled by Carly Fu, and Wyatt looking a little winded from the big body shots. Meanwhile, Carnage Asada, who's back on the track after that cut track, will pick up 5.
Screech-around's being recycled again.
Back block on Abe Drinkin. We'll send him to the box. Seeing the penalties are stacking up big time on the New York Shock Exchange side of the board. Now with 3 players with 4 trips, and Carnage Asada grabbing another 5 much needed points for New York. As time winds down on the first half here, it looks like that'll probably be the last jam unless somebody calls a timeout.
Should be.
Oh, there we go.
And it looks like it's going to be an official review for New York Shock Exchange. In the meantime, St. Louis has met the century mark right at 100. New York Shock Exchange at 73. They are closing up that gap.
Yeah, they might be taking an opportunity here to question the back block on Abe Drinkin. It happened right in front of their bench. Also might be an opportune time to have a timeout also.
Definitely.
Stop that clock.
Have a little chat. In the last 5 jams, St. Louis has scored 13 points. New York has picked up 33. So New York is, clearly they want to pass these semifinals and go in for the final bout. They're really...
Yeah, let's look at these penalty holders over here. It's Zabo, Abe Drinkin, and Buster Cheaton with 4. Thinking about it, they really can't afford to lose those skaters on the track. Jonathan R., who's puts in such heavy duty out there, no penalties. So you really got to give it up for those skaters that skate clean like that and can have that much success as well. I think the two are related.
Yeah, often is the case, especially if you look at the St. Louis Gatekeeper side. We've got Led Zeppelin and Nat King Kill at 4.
All right, we're going to give you a penalty update over here with Phil Dirt.
New York Shock Exchange wants to try and get White 2-0 Abe Drinkin out of the penalty box. They're saying that his back block was caused by the green jammer. So we'll see how that works out for him. But they did get this clock stopped with 2 seconds left.
Yes, they did get it stopped with 2 seconds left.
If you see him leave the penalty box, then you know it was overturned.
You know what's going on? Cool.
There
Thank
you
very
go.
much.
How about let's look at some point scoring here, the leading point scorers for both teams. For New York, we've, of course, Jonathan R., 29 points. From there, Carnage Asada, 17. I Am Havoc, 20. Sammy Dangerfield, 7. How about over on the Gatekeeper side?
Over on the Gatekeepers, we've got Magnum with 28. And then we've got Prime scoring 22 and Bauer at 24. So the call that they just tried to get taking max to get their player out of the box, New York's player out of the box. It does stand, and that is swoopy whistle. I'm not sure. We're going to have one more jam?
Yeah, looks like it. 2 seconds left here. Jonathan R. set to jam, of course. Magnum, PIMP. And it looks like Magnum fighting the front. Oh, gets it past the heavy block of Sammy Dangerfield. Holds that inside line. Lead jammer, Gatekeepers.
It's going to be Nat King Kill up there. Really working hard. Recycling back the New York jammer. We got a 2-man keeping back New York's jammer. Wow, we have one of the
amazing Bled Zeppelin back there holding back Jonathan R. The big guy's got some serious moves.
He really does.
Lateral
Bled Zeppelin,
movement.
Surprisingly agile.
And again, recycling Jonathan R. So, and New York continuing to stack up players in the box as Sammy Dangerfield has a seat. They'll have one blocker on the track who's quickly recycled out of bounds. Jonathan R. with a cut track takes a trip to the box, and we'll have Debaucherous Prime in here for the remaining 58 seconds.
He really just swooped by on the outside, untouched by anyone in the pack, picking up another 5 points for the St. Louis Gatekeepers.
In charge of the clock, too, so continuing to attack for points. Look at that push up the inside line. You got to love these powerful jammers that say, I'm going to create my own space. You know, you're in my way. Here's my shoulder. I'm just going to drive right through you. And he continues to do that time and time again. Lots of ways to cut up an apple, so to speak.
There you have it. We are going to be at halftime now. St. Louis Gatekeepers 123. New York Shock Exchange not far behind with 73.
Yeah, the Shock Exchange coming back into this one. You know, they keep, you know, looking like they're coming back up in, getting real close in the score, and then the Gatekeepers run out again. This was good stuff, and there's a lot more of it to come today. Bouts coming up will be, of course, the winner of this one versus the winner of our game earlier, which is your mom for the championship. You're going to make sure to check that one out at 5 p.m. I'm going to work backwards here. That's 5 p.m. Pacific time. And then how about that third place game?
Third place is at, you shocked me. I wasn't expecting that. I was at 3 p.m.
3 p.m.
Pacific.
And that will be the loser of this game facing Puget, the hometown favorite and host of our tournament. And then for the fifth place game, that is at 1 o'clock. And the Cinderella stories of the day, or of the weekend, the Denton County Outlaws versus Southern Discomfort. So lots of action. Stay with us. We're going to take a break. Thank you.
We are Deb Null,
And Roxy Settley of Nerd Roller Skates.
Calgary, Alberta's full-service skate shop.
We are roller derby players and roller skate nerds.
And we are here for the people who roll.
They told us to just sell skates online. You won't have any overhead. Put some skulls in your advertising, you'll make a mint. That was never our plan. Our plan was to make a store where all day we are fitting skaters, fixing skates, teaching customers, and putting the best gear on their bodies. Before we put 3 W's in front of our name, we made sure we had hundreds of happy customers come through our doors. We're not just Derby owned, we're Derby dedicated. Fast Girl Skates.
So we're back here, MRDA 2014 World Championships, Tacoma, Washington. Fantastic event every year. This is my 3rd year on call for men's champs. Quite proud of that, to be a supporter of men's derby.
This is
Julia
awesome.
Sleazer having a great game here, and a good call. So what do you think the keys to the game for New York coming forward?
Sorry, what was the question?
The keys to the game for New York coming forward. What do they got to do to get back in this one?
To get back in it, New York's got to change their strategy and really get past these gatekeeper walls. That is what the main holdup has been. These jammers have got to get through.
Yeah, the aptly named Gatekeepers, because you know that right now the gate is kept, and they've been able to put a lockdown on New York for much of the game. You know, Jonathan R. having some success out there with 29 points. Really not. The other jammers stifled quite a bit. They're going to have to do more offensive blocking and stay out of the penalty box. As noted, they've stacked them up. Abe Drinkin now with 5. Chris Szabo with 4 still, and Buster Cheaton with 4. A lot of other people with 2 and 3 on that side of defense, so you can see how the score is the way it is.
On the gatekeeper side, we really only have Nat King Kill, who's got 5 approaching. We got Bled Zeppelin with 4, Wrecking Bill's got 3, and there's a smattering of 2s and 1s for the penalties. A couple people with no penalties whatsoever, keeping it extra clean.
So the New York Stock Exchange will field at blocking position Sammy Dangerfield, Malcolm Sachs, Abe Drinkin.
On the gatekeeper side, we've got excellent lineup, ready to blast New York. Double XL, Percy Control, Kyle Stark. It's going to be Shane Bauer out there jamming. Oh, and Saint staring right at his arm.
Powerful lineups on both sides.
Definitely.
Jammer in the box now coming out for New York. Jonathan R. meanwhile out front. Gatekeepers. Shane Bauer taking on 2. Big hit in the front. Forces his way through that face-to-face contact. Sometimes it'll work for you. Sometimes you're going to get knocked backwards. Jonathan R. trying to fight for initial pass. Still facing Stark. Finally out, but into scoring position now. Bauer trying to slice through these heavy blocks. Gets shoved out of bounds, and we'll call it picking up a big 5 in the sky. So I want to give a personal shout out to our tournament head announcer from last year's MRDA Championship, Star Spangled Hammer. He is the Gatekeepers announcer and is not with us out here on this trip. Sorely missed by his fellow announcers and team here, but we love you, and the team and myself wanted to give you a shout out. So Star Spangled Hammer at the watch party. Back to the action. Carnage Asada for New York in the back.
Facing off against Bled Zeppelin and Wrecking Bell once again together.
Bled Zeppelin recycles him, but he is sent to the box immediately, probably direction of gameplay. Meanwhile, coming out of the front end, Debaucherous Prime, lead jammer for the Gatekeepers. Again, having a tough time with the defensive blocking of the Gatekeepers as Carnage Asada. Still 2 more to beat, but they are recycling the front over and over again. He passes each of these blockers multiple times, finally free on his initial pass. Scoring is Debaucherous Prime, looking to pick up all the points, and stumbling out of bounds, calls off the jam. We'll see Sammy Dangerfield heading to the penalty box. At the end of that one, 5 points scored by Debaucherous Prime on that jam. St. Louis extending their lead.
We got St. Louis Gatekeepers at 138, New York Stock Exchange at 73 with 27 and a half-ish minutes left in the bout. Game, whatever we're calling it now, game.
And a shout out and thank you to Radar Wheels. I Am Havoc jamming for New York. It's stuck at the back. Meanwhile, Magnum PIMP pimping it through the pack with a smile.
Mercy Control recycling I Am Havoc all the way to the back, bringing him back up to the wall of Gatekeepers.
So knocked out of bounds, but no pass, no penalty. PIMP able to jump right back on the track, and now at the back wall of New York, slices through again for more points. Calls off the jam 4.
At the end of the jam, it looks like I Am Havoc has gotten a track cut, so it's going to be a power start for the St. Louis Gatekeepers, who have Screech Around up on that jammer line once again. The Nerd Skates jammer line, in fact, I should specify.
St. Louis in command thus far on the scoreboard, really keeping their cool on the track. They're playing their game very focused, Screech Around, diving into the defense, very aggressive jamming too, pushing through blocks, creating space. That Screech Around trying to spin around through this Jeffrey in the front line defense. He will head out into scoring position as your lead jammer. Meanwhile, direction gameplay on Jeffrey. He'll head to the box along with number 20, Abe Drinkin. And Abe Drinkin, that'll be his 6th penalty. 4 of those penalties being back blocks.
Meanwhile, I Am Havoc has gotten out of the box and has come through on his initial pass.
New York penalty problems. One of the stories of this one so far, and one of the secrets to them coming back in, is to stay out of that box. Certainly don't foul out of the game.
Right. Can't see the hand because it's sideways. St. Louis either just picked up 4 or 5 on that last pass. 5 points, looks like, on that last pass. We're going to start off with 2 New York blockers in the box. Jonathan R. on the line up against Shane Bauer for the St. Louis Gatekeepers.
Jonathan R. Picks up a back block right away, trying to block Shane Bauer out of bounds, but Shane turns his back into him. Now Shane slicing by the front. Diminished. Look at that one blocker on the track who is double XL to the inside. So Shane Bauer with a smile, and the Gatekeepers in control.
Percy Control taking the pivot for New York out. Looks like he got called to the box, however.
Percy Control taking a trip to the box as well for the Gatekeepers. So Gatekeepers now with 2 blockers in the box. Diminished pack there. That'll help out Jonathan R. He is finally through on the initial pass. Shane Bauer looking back, calling it off. That was a rock star jam for the young jammer. St. Louis Gatekeeper watch party getting a little bit raucous, I might imagine. You know?
I did say that I saw a picture. They have a really super fancy cake.
Very, very nice. That's a team with a lot of hometown spirit.
They really do. They really do have a lot. It's good to see a community so supportive. St. Louis has a couple of teams. They all really support each other. Up on the line, we've got Prime for St. Louis. Going to try to mow his way through the pack.
Carnage Asada taken down, held back. But Debaucherous Prime, lead jammer for St. Louis, a streak of them. Carnage Asada tiptoeing along the line, breaks out of the pack. Let's see if we get some points and a quick call off here. That's what we're going to get. A lot of carnage and debauchery on that one.
In this second half, it has been St. Louis with 41-0.
Wow.
Yeah.
41-0. So not the start to the second half the New York Chalk Exchange wanted to have. Look, stuck at 73 for such a long period here.
It's like we are going to have an official timeout. Get a little zebra huddle going.
And then now a 100-point lead for the St. Louis Gatekeepers. Now, thinking about the Gatekeepers, thinking forward, let's say the Gatekeepers win this, which, it's still, the game is in question. We've got plenty of time left, but New York really has to turn it on. They've got to do everything right at this point and solve a couple of the problems that they're having. But so let's say we go into this final with your mom versus the Gatekeepers. And we've seen that matchup before many times, always a battle. It's not, a foregone conclusion
Nope.
by any stretch of the imagination. How do you think your Gatekeepers are going to match up against your mom?
From what I've seen this weekend, I think the Gatekeepers have gotten a lot stronger over the last year. I think it'll be a much closer score than we'd seen. Well, actually, thinking back, the last time I saw your mom play the Gatekeepers may not have been the last time they played them, but it was 1 point in the 2012 championships. It was 1 point.
1 point, yeah,
So,
and that was in St. Louis. Your mom stealing it away, so there's definitely a revenge thing here. St. Louis
Right.
was really shocked by that. There were not a lot of happy faces early at the after party in St. Louis in 2012, and they put on a great tournament. And
Definitely an excellent tournament. Last year they did not get to compete against your mom because they lost to New York. So I think the championship of this game, if it were to line up as Gatekeepers versus your mom, which definitely not saying that is the truth, will be an extraordinarily exciting bout.
So we're back out into the action here as Demetrius Prime continues.
Just got a little bit of update on that official timeout. New York apparently thinks that St. Louis is pulling the flop move that you may have heard about earlier in this season that got added into the rules.
Both jammers caught up in the packs right now. Excellent defense for the Gatekeepers out front on Sammy Dangerfield. These somewhat smaller jammers for New York having a tough time with the big walls of the Gatekeepers. Sammy Dangerfield, to his credit, staying in bounds, not getting recycled back, continuing to push the front wall. And looking back now at New York's wall, they have contained amazingly, but now Sammy Dangerfield to the box.
It was a high block that he landed on Percy control as Percy was trying to hold him back, but Sammy's going to sit in the box for 30 seconds for.
And New York will attempt to do some penalty killing time here, but Magnum, getting some help out front has crashed to the floor is Buster Cheaton, courtesy of Saint. Magnum with a smile, got to get the...
if he wants to start scoring right now.
And his mouthpiece.
Oh, geez. He's going to go ahead and pass that to Saint as New York lines their wall up. Go ahead and get some of their bigger players out there and smash them up a bit.
Man, Saint taking on this wall. Magnum was a little tired from taking on the Jeffrey wall out there. Really tough. New York's trying to hold it down right now on defense with not enough offense. They've got to pin down and lock tight on this Gatekeeper offense, which has been a scoring machine thus far.
Saints having a lot of trouble having received that star getting past New York, and I think that may have been the natural conclusion of the jam. 4 points picked up by the Gatekeepers. Nothing picked up by New York, so that is going to put Gatekeepers at 177. New York stays at 73. We've got just over 20 minutes left in this game. Screech around on the line for the St. Louis Gatekeepers. I am Havoc for New York.
Yeah, it seems to me like New York might need to send someone out if their jammer's having that much of a hard time with the wall and stuck the entire jam or most of the jam. Then they might want to send out somebody to disrupt that wall and break it up. Just, maybe block 3, send 1. Of course, that'd be a lot easier if they had 4 on the track.
Right.
So
it's been a bit problematic, yes.
Yeah. Well, let's look at the point scoring here as the referees are discussing something, but then we've got on the New York Chalk Exchange side, Jonathan R. still at 29, Carnage Asada 17, I Am Havoc at 20, Sammy Dangerfield 7. Held very low on the point score total for this New York team. They usually score a lot more than that. We'll get you the Gatekeepers right after.
Well, they are really...
Well, they're ready out there.
They're so ready.
So...
Got Ogre as the head ref on this bout. Got the 5-second call.
Excellent ref crew, been in control.
Oh, yeah.
Screech around for the Gatekeepers. It's going to be I Am Havoc breaking free as your lead jammer. You need a whole lot more of those calls, and Screech around doing his part, getting out, trying to keep this point low. Is he going to hit it and quit it? He is in the pack, looks back, takes a shot to the floor. So I think they're going to trust their defense and let I Am Havoc attack. Trying to create some havoc here on the scoreboard for New York, but again pushed out.
I Am Havoc having gotten lead. This is New York's first time as lead in the second half.
Yeah, but Screech Around already came around and scored, so I Am Havoc going to call it off after picking up 3. So small victory there for Gatekeepers with a 1-point advantage on that jam.
In the second half, St. Louis has scored 49 to New York's 3, even though we've got just under 20 minutes left. New York could definitely rack them up, but they, like you said before, they've got to do everything right from here on out to really close this gap up.
19 minutes remaining.
Got Shane Bauer out there on the line for the St. Louis Gatekeepers. Jonathan R. is already up there front of the pack and he's got lead jammer status for the New York Shock Exchange.
So Jonathan R. on the attack. Shane Bauer forced to recycle way back again, so 5 points snagged here by the New York team trying to get things under control in the second half. We've got a star pass. Nat King Kill dons the cap. But some points here for Jonathan R. And look at the smile and the big thumbs
so
up.
Happy. I have to say, I mean, I've been to 2 other championships. I'm usually an NSO, and New York, some of the nicest guys to the officials, and I really do like their attitude. So I feel this matchup is attitude-wise very, very similar. Game-wise, very similar. New York's just having a little bit of trouble scoring as much as they usually do.
Yeah. But amazing to see Jonathan R. Such a big smile down by so many points, almost 100 points on the scoreboard. Back on the floor, we've got Demetrius Prime looking for a hole at the back. Meanwhile, Carnage Asada out front, stifled again by the Gatekeepers wall. Demetrius Prime, lead jammer.
Led Zeppelin about to get up there and control his brace of Banana and Wrecking Bill.
And Carnage Asada just getting worn down, taking body shot after body shot. And, you know, the analogy to boxing, if you get enough body shots in, you wear them down, and that's what it looks like to me as Gatekeepers going for the body shots on the track. So we'll see Buster cheating, caught cheating, sent to the penalty box. He's got 5 so far in this one. Pretty characteristic number for him so far in the tournament. Wrecking Bill, a wrecking ball delivering those body shots. You know, I did an interview with Wrecking Bill last year at Champs, and he said he was retiring, and
he better know it.
So, and then here he is.
I can't believe he said that. He really did.
So I'm just not going to announce anybody's retiring anymore.
No, don't bother. He's not going to.
So Carnage Asada out on his initial pass. The jam will be shut down, of course, very astutely by the smart Gatekeeper squad. And that's one thing I can say about the Gatekeepers. They are playing a smart, controlled, attacking game.
Definitely.
The walls are ferocious. You know your mom is in the audience studying these walls and trying to figure them out right now. Your mom's going to have a little bit of an advantage with a longer rest today, having played the first game, but only by a couple of hours. Things set up pretty fair here at the MRDA Championship. Sammy Dangerfield for New York gets through, lead jammer, but they just cannot contain these Gatekeeper jammers such as Magnum. Even when New York picks up lead jam, it seems like right there on their tail is Magnum or Screech or any of those guys, and that's a victory to get out and hold them down to 2 points.
Yeah, and even though New York did get lead that time, it's Gatekeepers that picked up the 2 points.
Oh, you're right. So definitely a victory for him.
The gigantic smile as he's on the heels of the New York jammer.
Jonathan R. and Screech around with the stars. Tough defenses to go up against. Screech around, finds space. You gotta love the screening by his walls to try and open up those spaces too. Jonathan R. recycled again.
Perfect control from the St. Louis Gatekeepers getting sent to the box is going to leave him short one blocker, of course.
Stark all out there by himself, has to let him go. Jonathan R. initial pass on the floor, Screech around. And Jonathan R. gets in and snags 4 with Screech around calling it off from the floor.
It's 2 points picked up by the St. Louis Gatekeepers.
Set up on the Nerd Skates jammer line.
Got the 5-second call. That is I Am Havoc out there for New York up against Debaucherous Prime for the St. Louis Gatekeepers.
I Am Havoc recycled quickly back into the back of the pack. Now kind of desperation for New York. I Am Havoc breaking free. And Debaucherous Prime is through, but I Am Havoc in there scoring. Let's see if they call it off. They've been not getting the call-offs in very well, or maybe intentionally not calling it off, but right there, that's to their disadvantage. With lead, you maybe could have prevented those 4 points. And I Am Havoc through. They're going to tell him to keep going from the bench.
Debaucherous Prime is going to get recycled back as New York's jammer comes right back into the pack, picking up a couple of points as it goes through, as long as he can get through this wall.
And you got to think maybe New York right now, the strategy is just to stay on the floor and keep it going, play defense, and try and hold them back.
It looks like both teams have picked up 2 points in that last pass.
St. Louis Gatekeepers on top by a pretty significant margin late in this one, 203. Shock Exchange 95. I'm a little bit surprised at the point differential here. I expected a much closer game.
I did as well.
Still exciting though. Every one of these plays out here is amazing.
And they've still got 12 minutes to shore up that gap.
Yeah, kind of baffled by these walls of New York and just how strong they are. They're bringing a lot to the table.
Certainly.
These MRDA championships. Very interesting to see what happens. So we've got Magnum, the Warrior, lead jammer for the Gatekeepers. Smile every time.
He's so happy.
Every single time that guy comes out of the pack, it's a smile. So it's the most smiley bout I've seen with Jonathan R.
Right?
and Magnum on the track together. Oh, and he'll pick up a cut track, and he even smiles
Still
then.
smiling.
So New York in a position here to maybe do some damage, but look, they're dropping back into play passive. They're going to have to get out there and help Carnage Asada. Time and time again, he has been recycled by this big wall. You know, big double XL out there and company. Stark playing like a shark on the track, the attack dog for the Gatekeepers.
This is New York's first power jam of this second half. We've only got a couple of seconds left as Prime's coming out of the box, coming back around. It looks like they're
trying to pass the jammer cap, but recycled way back behind Inquadable. Hulk cannot say enough about the teamwork of the St. Louis Gatekeepers, and then they're not really picking up the multiplayer blocks or anything like you might expect, and the walls are sticking together like crazy. So another 5 points for Mags, making the Cardinals fans scream.
So Inquadable Hawk's going to be sent on a blocking counter to play.
Slicing again through, grabbing 5 more. Gatekeepers starting to put this one out of reach, but 10 minutes remaining, and we'll see a high block on Carnage Asada, and New York's getting worn down.
That's a low block.
Low block, thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. sometimes those penalties start to accrue when you get a little bit desperate out there trying to get by. And
What does Carnage decide to add? That is his 4th penalty. We've got a couple of people approaching foul hour.
yeah, pretty significant number of penalties. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people with 5 or more penalties on the Shock Exchange side. That is a whole boatload of penalties. Of course, there are a lot of penalties on the Gatekeeper side too.
It's true.
Over here, it's just been more
concentrated
strategic.
mostly. Yeah, it's concentrated mostly on 2 people. We've got Nat King Kill and Bled Zeppelin both sitting at 6, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people sitting at 3, and then a couple people with 2. A couple people still have 0.
Well, and lots more action to come all day long. It's going to be a good one. These matchups are inquotable.
This is going to be a power jam for St. Louis Gatekeepers. We've got 2 of the Gatekeepers blockers in the box, 1 of the New York blockers in the box. Of course, their jammer is sitting in there too. So it's going to be an interesting start.
2 on 2.
Screech around.
3 on 2.
Trying to press his way through that 2-man brace. Finally throws his shoulder in there and gets through, and he's got lead jammer status for the St. Louis Gatekeepers.
Screech around, so tenacious,
Yeah.
always jumping off the blocks, you know, not really fancy but always with that strong shoulder forcing and then the quick move around like that.
Yep, exactly like that. That's 5 points picked up by Screech around.
You know, Carnage continuing to sit in the box. Really winded after that last jam, but we'll have a cut track on Screech around, so he will screech all the way around the long way.
That's going to be a full 30 seconds for Screech around as Carnage Asada has just come back in.
Asada valiantly pushing the front wall, but recycled by Percy Control. Percy taking a trip to the box for the Gatekeepers. Initial pass completed by Carnage Asada. Snags 5 points for the New York Shock Exchange.
Gatekeepers jammer is standing in the box. We've got about 36 seconds left in this jam. It's going to be a full jam, of course. That's 5 more points picked up by the New York Shock Exchange. Oof. Oh, huge hit from Saint. Knocking Carnage Asada down, and he's going to recycle him back.
Yeah, Saint really awesome at coming out the front. It seems like the Gatekeepers have role players, you know, like that. Like, you know, the jammer gets out, you're chasing. That's your job.
Right.
And,
I feel like his name might be slightly misleading.
Well, maybe a Saint off the track. Hard hitter on.
Looks like that box is emptied out, and we're going to have a full complement of blockers and both jammers on the track. Got the 5-second call. We'll be starting off pretty soon. We've got Prime out there for St. Louis against Jonathan R. for New York Shock Exchange.
Both stuck in the big grinding pack. Who's going to pop out the front end? Oh, Debaucherous Prime cut track. Hand went on the inside. He got knocked to the inside. Maybe didn't realize, got that hand down, but he will sit. Meanwhile, Jonathan R. on the attack. Couple of power jams here for New York, trying to bring some hope to the table. Of good offensive blocking by Ladies Night out the front end, but now they're going to let him hang out there, and you can do that with Jonathan R.
Definitely.
You know, I've been talking about how they might need to do a little bit more offensive blocking, but not for this guy. A little bit like, you know, Bonnie Thunders is just can break down to just about any wall, given enough time.
Looks like we're going to have an out-of-play call.
Jeffery for New York. So Debaucherous Prime.
That's a destruction of pack. That's what I had suspected. I don't have a good angle, though.
Look at the strength of Debaucherous Prime staying in at 2 defenders leaning on him to the outside, able to lock that outside leg and stay in, but now crashed to the floor. Have a penalty called on that last hit.
I think that was an out-of-play call as well.
And Carly Fu. Gatekeepers in control.
Yeah, it's something a lot of players that make it to this level of competition. They have to have a lot of strength. You got to be able to put up with a lot of blocking and have to keep going for a very, very long time to be able to pop up out of things. And we're seeing a lot of that today, especially with people like Magnum. He can just keep pressing and keep pressing and keep pressing. Doesn't seem to get winded like ever.
Yeah, it's a cross training. You're seeing so many skaters working out, in all these different forms and developing their bodies. So training really coming into it. Magnum, aforementioned, is our lead jammer. Mm-hmm. So Sammy Dangerfield stuck behind Blood Zeppelin and company on the front end. Spin Diesel being recycled. No, he'll head off the track for a gatekeeper penalty. Sammy Dangerfield caught at the last second. The timing of these blocks is awesome. They're catching them at just the right moment, saying get out of bounds like that.
This is going to be a power jam just started for New York as Magnum has been sent to the box on a high block.
But Blood Zeppelin, just a force of nature.
Only one on the track right now.
Awesome if we kept track of how many recycles a person had. This is a blocker who can take you all the way to the line. He's somebody who can block all by himself out there. Sammy Dangerfield getting the better of that one.
That is really, really good work on Bled. He's, for a moment there, just the only blocker out there on the track as the Gatekeepers box gets filled up. They've got one more person coming in on cue. But on the other hand, that's another 5 points picked up by New York.
So a surge by New York here.
And 4 points picked up by Gatekeepers.
Gatekeepers back on the track. And continuing the attack. Wow. It's awesome. Sliding under the block of Carly Fu with the smile. And Sammy Dangerfield has the cap off. Back on, off. Passes it off. Got a little do-si-do here with the jammer cap.
So many decisions.
Yeah. Malcolm Sachs by any means necessary. Donning the star for New York. These players are tired out here. Jeffrey will take a trip to the penalty box. That is Jeffrey's 7th.
Oh, is it?
Apparently so.
It's going to be a timeout for New York. Talk about a little strategery.
Man, oh man. So coming up today, we've got Denton County, who came in here, the Outlaws, and came in here and stole it. Aptly named Outlaws. They really stole a lot of people's hearts.
Yeah.
I knew they were going to bring in some awesome blocking schemes. They've got some great veterans on that team like TJ Binkley and, of course, Luke Shortbus Powell. Those guys are awesome. But they've really played well as a team.
Definitely. I was impressed. I called one of their bouts yesterday. I was really, really impressed with how they fared against your mom. Yeah. Because, we put seed number 1 against seed number 8. You expect an extraordinary blowout. And it was a blowout, but it wasn't as much of a blowout as I expected. So I felt like Denton County really held their own against your mom.
And then they came in against Mass and just really brought it. That one came down to the wire and a big dramatic finish last night. So Denton County in that 5th place game, along with Southern Discomfort, the other upset of the tournament, the big Cinderella story. So
all the way from London. I'm excited to see it.
I'm on call for that one up next. So
lucky.
Lots to say. And back on the floor here because the game rages on the track. Screech around. Lead jammer, Gatekeepers.
He's going to go ahead and meet a New York wall. Let's see if he can get through it. See, Jonathan R. is stuck behind those Gatekeepers, some massive players. Oh, it looks like Screech Around's being called on a track cut. So this is going to be a short power jam, the 30-second power jam for New York. But Wrecking Bill and I think that's Blood out there really don't want Jonathan R. to get through and hold him back for a long time until Jonathan R. finally gets a high block. We're going to do a little jammer switcheroo, put Screech Around back on the track just in a second. And then Jonathan will sit just as long as Screech did. Under 20 seconds. How's that?
Well, the Gatekeepers locking the gate here on this one. They have certainly secured their spot at the championship with a couple minutes remaining. Almost not possible to score 100 points that quick.
Banana.
Big shots.
Oh,
man.
Didn't realize he had the stars. Like, Banana suddenly mowing everyone down. There's a star pass to Bane out there. Let's see how he does.
And Bane wants to get a piece of this action on the floor. Says, give me some points, baby, for the final. Gatekeepers fans loving this. And Banana out there against his former team. You know, I know they love him.
It's Led Zeppelin being called to the box on out of play, and then Wrecking Bill sitting for a back block.
We'll just have a party in the penalty box at the end, start the after party a little early. So
some of the best dancing I've ever seen has been in the penalty box, I gotta say.
We continue to rock here with a minute and a half. Jonathan R. picking up points. This New York team is never say die. They play to the very end. And you look at the bench over there for New York, and just like that guy with the positive attitude, they've all got their heads held high. They're proud to come out here to the MRDA champs and compete and play well. The Gatekeepers just bringing the house.
Yeah.
Bringing the house.
Definitely. Both of these teams always play incredibly well.
Yeah.
Always have a really good attitude. Right now we're on a timeout for the New York Stock Exchange. We've got a minute 15 left on the game clock. Currently the score is St. Louis Gatekeepers 249, New York Stock Exchange 142. Wanted to point out, once again, the Radar Wheels is sponsoring the tournament MVPs with some product.
Big thanks to them over at Radar Wheels. Also, we'd like to thank Blood and Thunder, hosting the Roller Derby World Cup in Dallas. Check that out.
That's going to be in December, right?
Yeah, good stuff there. Of course, Nerd Skates sponsoring the Jammer line here. For the last year, we've dedicated our time to creating something special that will change the wheel game as you know it. Oh, that's a Green Monster.
Slid down to Green Monster.
Out of position, but yeah, Green Monster changing the wheel game as we know it. Look them up on Instagram, Green Monster Roller Sports, for more information. Back on the floor, Stark with the star, I believe his first time today. Crashing hits as always from Double XL on the floor. The story of the game here, really, St. Louis shut down defense on New York, pounding hits from the big guys. The jamming of St. Louis, top notch as well, ready to compete for a championship.
It's 4 points picked up by New York, and you may have noticed that Stark is out there jamming for the first time. Stark, you usually see him as a blocker. He's trying to mow through that New York pack. New York's not having it, though. They're really knocking him around. We've got four-man concentrating on Stark, who looks like he's about to do a star pass. I think he tried to do one earlier. We've got New York's jammer coming in, having accrued 4 points on that last pass. Stark still hung up there in the back. New York picking up 5 big points on that pass. Getting it called off. We're going to have an official review, it looks like. 2 points picked up by the Gatekeepers on that last pass. As I said, for New York, 5.
So an official review here for New York with 1 second left.
1 second left on the period
left on the period clock. And kind of an interesting move here to take one in this position. But I think New York wants to fight for every single possible point they can put on the scoreboard.
They seem to call it pretty quickly, and perhaps they have something in mind. I mean, maybe it might not just be strategery, which is what I would expect to see at this point. I think they're out of timeouts. So
we'll see what happens with that.
Hopefully we'll hear back in a minute on that.
More on the that 5th place bout, Southern Discomfort coming in. London in the WFTDA came in and pushed us forward in the evolution of the game and the international nature of that big tournament, and we love to see that. and they will be in the championships this year. WFTA championships coming up soon. Make sure to tune into that on WFTA.tv as well. And with Southern Discomfort representing for the men very well at this tournament. Coming in a 7th seed, they can do no worse than 6th. Possibility of 5th against the upstart Denton County team.
Oops, sorry. In case you were curious what this official review is about, I've been told by Ninja Assassin. It's New York is requesting a high block on the Black Jammer. So we're going to see, if you see the Black Jammer in the box, you know what just happened.
Doesn't look like they're going to be successful on that. We'll have 1 more second, but possibly 2 more minutes of gameplay. As another opportunity for a thumbs up from Jonathan R. Empty penalty box. That's a good way to start the last second. Jonathan R. out. There's the smile and the thumb. So he'll be our lead jammer. This one will possibly go the 2 minutes. You got to imagine that they'll just keep it rolling here. Oh, but to the penalty box, it will go the full 2 minutes, and we'll have a switch of Rue as we have a multiplayer block on Debaucherous Prime that will sit him. A minute and a half remaining in the jam.
This penalty can't start until he sits down. He decided to have a couple words with Jonathan R. before that happens. Spin Diesel is so ready. He comes up, brings him up to the wall.
Now getting some offensive help there. Abe Drinking and company, really an amazing storied franchise. What a great team. And you know this team will be back in top contention and vying for the championship again next year. They just ran into the roadblock here that was the Gatekeepers.
It's like Spin Diesel is being sent to the box, spinning Gatekeepers with just 3 blockers out there still. After this bout, stay tuned because we're going to have Black Star Heroines going to interview Debaucherous Prime of the Gatekeepers.
Good stuff there. Prime may be winded. He's in here on this last jam against that tough New York defense. He'll sit back and let time wind down on the clock as Jonathan R. will head to the penalty box for a final time. Just a couple seconds remaining.
Looked like there was a misconduct called on Jonathan R. And there we go. That is the end of the bout. An amazing bout. Both teams played so well.
Man, but the penalties, both sides stacked up really large.
True.
The Gatekeepers ending up, for a lot of penalties towards the end of the game. 1 foul out of Bled Zeppelin. They've got to watch that against your mom. Those penalties could get them into some trouble on that championship game. Very exciting action all the way through. Great one-on-one matchups. It'll be awesome to see how it plays out. Now, interestingly, this puts a really cool matchup for 3rd place. Puget, who played your mom very well. Puget looked like they were in that one most of the bout, and New York running away with it in the end and staying in control. But Puget was phenomenal. They really surprised me. I didn't think they were going to play your mom quite that close, and a lot of other people didn't either. And then you get them up against a team like New York, and New York here, after suffering this big loss, is going to be hungry for that 3rd place. They're not going to want to sit in 4th this year. So lots of high fives on the track, lots of big smiles. Southern Discomfort out there to congratulate the victors and console New York in this one.
That's the next bout up once again is Southern Discomfort Roller Derby from London up against the Denton County Outlaws of Texas. That should be an extraordinarily exciting matchup as well.
Absolutely. And you'll get a raucous call on that one too.
Awesome.
Be sitting right here in this chair doing the play-by-play for you, breaking down all the action on the upstart Cinderella teams of the weekend, vying for that that fifth place spot.
It's like the score has been finalized by the officials. St. Louis Gatekeepers 252, New York Stock Exchange 159.
Yeah, over on the New York side with Jonathan R. with 64 points. As usual, their top scorer. From there, I Am Havoc with 42. Had kind of a slow start, but came back. Sammy Dangerfield with 18. Carnage Asada with 32.
On the Gatekeepers side, we've got Magnum PIMP with 92 of those points to himself. And then we've got Debaucherous Prime with 54. Shane Bauer 42. Screech Around with 33. Bane got himself 11. Nat King killed 12. And Stark scored 3. You can see Magnum PIMP, huge contender, picking up 92 of the 252 points.
I am very interested to see what happens in this. I know everyone is, but 5 p.m. Pacific time tonight, Your Mom Men's Roller Derby versus the St. Louis Gatekeepers, and their styles are so different. What they're bringing to the table, and you think about Your Mom, and the style is very fluid. They flow. They do a lot of bridging, spreading out the pack, creating space for their jammers to weave their way through. And then you've got those for the Gatekeepers, the incredible walls.
Definitely.
The big guys, different sizes, shapes, speeds, all mixed together on the same track. Very different style of play.
Definitely. We see a lot of resilience from the Gatekeepers, as I've mentioned a couple of times, and I think that's going to play a big part against Your Mom. As long as I can keep the penalties down, we're going to go ahead and throw it over to Black Star Heroin, I believe.
Yep, with Debaucherous Prime on the
Black
floor.
Star Heroin here on the sidelines with Debaucherous Prime. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You single-handedly scored 54 points. Magnum PIMP scored 92 points.
Man, he's amazing, right? Just fantastic.
You guys are incredible. How does it feel to beat Stock Exchange again? This is a grudge match if there ever was one.
It is. I believe this is our 8th game against them. One of our deepest and oldest rivalries. Just playing them is taking Derby to another level for us. It's great. Yeah.
What do you feel like was the reason for your success? What worked for you guys against them?
We played them really hard at RollerCon this summer and eked out a victory, a single-digit victory, in which Jonathan R. had to sit out a majority of the game with an injury. So these past 2 or 3 months, we've really focused on playing them again. And we played a very offensive game. A lot of our blockers were help making lanes for us. As jammers, makes it a lot easier just to skate laps.
Absolutely. Also, this is the highest score that you've ever had against them, 252 to 159. Typically, it's been 161 is the magic number that we keep coming up with. 100-point differential. What's the key? Are you cross training in the off season?
Well, yeah. We've been training a lot. Some extra practices. Guys are working out. Eating our Wheaties, drinking our Gatorade, and
shaving your mustache.
Yeah, absolutely. It acts as a spoiler. I get more downward force. I don't know. Silly facial hair is fun, right? This is roller derby. You gotta mix it up.
Especially since you guys are skating backwards 70% of the time, you might as well look a little different.
Yeah, you want to disarm the opposition with funny looks on your face,
Excellent. Well, congratulations. Go be with your team. And back to you guys.
We are Deb Null,
And Roxy Acetylene of Nerd Roller Skates.
Calgary, Alberta's full-service skate shop.
We are roller derby players and roller skate nerds.
And we are here for the people who roll.
Hey, this is Dan from S1 Helmets. We're in the testing lab today, testing helmets to see if they pass the multiple impact certification test. We're going to be testing 3 helmets today. A soft foam helmet with EVA foam and a terry cloth liner, the hockey helmet with triple density EVA foam, the S1 Lifer helmet with EPS fusion foam. All 3 of these helmets are marketed as multiple impact helmets. We're going to test all of them today and see which ones actually pass the test. The multiple impact test is when we drop a helmet to achieve a velocity of 4.57 meters per second. This simulates a 10-mile-an-hour impact or a 4-foot drop. The same helmet is tested 3 times in the same location. The helmet must reduce the energy pulse to under 300 Gs each time. Anything over 300 Gs can result in a traumatic brain injury or a severe concussion. In summary, the soft foam helmet with EVA foam and the hockey helmet with triple density foam did not pass the multiple impact test. The S1 Lifer helmet with EPS fusion foam did pass the multiple impact test.